Welcome one and all to another episode of Omnipresent Information Connection. My name is Noah Hansen. I'm here with Kevin Peterson, the 33-year Master Certified Life Coach. How are you doing today, Kevin?
I'm blessed and highly favored.
Thank you, Kevin, for never failing to show us that you are blessed and highly favored. What do you mean by that?
Blessed and highly favored means that I'm blessed not only by being here, being in your presence, and being live in this podcast, but be highly favored to be able to be thankful for everything that's come into my life, whether it's good times, bad times, all of it. Highly favored is to be able to enjoy all of it simultaneously with God.
There you go. See, that's the key aspect, because who's favoring you, right? It's God.
Yeah.
God's favoring you by blessing you with a life worth living. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's about how to apply a life worth living. And this is going to be somewhat of a supplement to the episode 57, Life Purpose. And the reason for that being is because we covered all the basics of what life purpose is. We even gave you the main life purpose for every single human being on this earth today, as far as, from a biblical standpoint, which is to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And what we talked about in that podcast is how ancestrally there had to be people leading the way forward and showing the way forward in order for us to even know what life purpose is, to be able to write down what life purpose is so that other people can connect with it, apply it to their lives, and see the results from that teaching.
Yes.
And then biblically, we gave you some Bible verses, we gave you some scripture showing how purpose can be in our lives, how we can connect with more purpose in our lives, and what the Bible has to say about what the life purpose is for every human being. And then we also talked about the scientific aspects of life purpose, which is if you are living a purposeful life, then you will have more health on an emotional, physical, and spiritual level. And there's some scientific facts behind this that are especially made known to us through the Institute of Heart Math. And Heart Math has done some amazing research where they've shown us just how having positive emotions, positive feelings, living a purposeful life, feeling like you are having a purpose for your life will honestly have beneficial ramifications for your physical health.
Oh, I see.
So we love highlighting Heart Math Institute here on the OIC podcast just because of how sound their research is. And they've been doing it for decades now. So there's a lot to back that up. And so now that we've got the basic overview, we've got the ancestral, the biblical, and the scientifically accurate aspects of what life purpose is, we want to give you a podcast where we tell you just how this has been applied to our lives, how we've applied it to our lives, this life purpose, and how you can do the same. So, Kevin, to start us out here, what is the most important part to keep in mind when applying purpose to your life?
Never take anything that doesn't come from God personally.
That's a good one.
It's a win-win situation.
Oh, yeah.
The reason why I started off with that is because we are in what I want to call troubled times, to where emotionally, physically, and spiritually, people are in battle right now.
Oh, yeah.
People are torn apart emotionally, physically, and spiritually.
No doubt.
Because the leaders that we once had in our yesteryear are not present in our today. And because of that, a lot of people are nervous, uncomfortable, have anxiety, worry, fear, grief, all that sort of thing, right? We counsel people on a daily basis, you and I. And our clients are telling us that they are overwhelmed, that they are emotionally out of control, and that they feel lost, they feel undriven, they feel like they have to be able to pick a side. When God says, pick me, and I'll put all your other problems aside, there is a significant difference But we as human beings really, really want to, in every way, conquer all these problems all by ourselves.
That's right, Kevin. And I want to clarify here because there's a lot of people who may critique what you just said, saying God will put all your problems aside.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds a lot like prosperity gospel, but what you mean by that is a perspective change, which we've gone over in other podcasts, where you will now have, in committing your life to God, you will now have a perspective shift to where you may not have all your problems and issues wash away. Now, when I accepted Jesus, there were a lot of sins that were in my life where I gained consciousness of them so that I could now deal with them myself with God. But the perspective change is that you now have a shift in outlook on your problems and issues to see from a kind of eagle eye view how they are not as strong, don't have as strong of a hold on you as they once did.
Absolutely.
And I think that's exactly what you mean by that, because of course we've talked about this in other podcasts. Your issues aren't just going to go away and wash away, but those issues will no longer have a hold on you to where you are enslaved to them.
Right. By being able to get rid of your strongholds so that you can be able to hold on to something not only real, not only everlasting, but something that's intimate and personal to you, you need to be able to know how to surrender it in the first place. That's where a lot of people go wrong, unintentionally. They shelter themselves away from people and trying to be able to cope and deal with situations and circumstances that are outside of their control without knowing wholeheartedly that they are doing it. By being able to bring in God's word, to be able to literally read what our ancestors went through to be able to get to where we're at today, you would find commonality and knowing that, okay, it isn't an internet issue way back then, but it is a communication issue, and it's very similar. So you would be able to find common ground, similarities, and comfort knowing that you're not alienated, that you're not all alone, that other people had these struggles too. But what they did was get outside of their comfort zone, get outside of their desire to harbor these feelings, and talk to those people that are of sound mind, sound body, sound spirit to be able to overcome them. We have in our past podcasts have talked about that in great detail. And I would encourage you to be able to go back and re-listen to the previous podcasts, because in order for you to bring in the shift, in order for you to bring in the change, in order for you to be able to bring in something anew, you have to be able to see it too.
Indeed. Thank you, Kevin. And one playlist that I want to highlight to be able to connect with that type of information especially is the Emotional, Physical, and Spiritual Intelligence 3-part series. And it's actually a 4-part series. We have one summarizing the entirety of it. That's just very powerful to connect with every aspect, of your life. It can be applied to any area of your life, these types of teachings. So I'm really grateful that we have this podcast. And again, listeners, if you haven't heard me say it before, this podcast isn't just for people who are people of God necessarily. And many of you listening may be thinking, well, why are they just pandering the Bible? Why are they talking about this? Well, the Bible is a densely packed information resource of wisdom, of truth that has worked for thousands of years in people's lives. And if applied properly, if read in context and be able to, cross-reference throughout the Bible message and see what it's actually telling you, not what you want it to tell you, then there's a lot of really simple, applicable, life-changing principles and techniques in there that can honestly change your life. And they have for Kevin and I. And that's what we're going to be getting into here in just a moment, is our personal testimony of how applying the biblical life purpose to our lives has changed our lives in a positive way.
Amen.
So anything to add before I get into my personal testimony here, Kevin?
Just know, listeners, that the greatest part about information and education is the application. Once you apply what you truly know, then nothing can be then taken for or against you without your own free will. You literally will have the knowledge, the information, and the empowerment to be able to recognize, realize, and see whether it's either spiritual warfare or your mind just playing tricks on me. See?
That's right. Yep.
So by knowing this, it helps you set the foundation. It's important. Just like any runner, there has to be a starting line, and then there has to be a finish line, right? The reason why the long lines are drawn is so that you are on an even keel when going into this challenge, when going into this situation. And the Bible clearly spells it out line by line by line, allowing you to always have a brand new, fresh start to every new problem and every new issue in a new way. And that's why we created this In a New Way learning series, so that you can be able to adopt, to be able to bring into your life information easier, simpler, more readily available to you in a new way for you to apply in every area of your life today.
That's right. And those courses that we've created are not pandering just to people who know the Bible. It's very simple put information in step-by-step format for you to apply to your life starting today.
Amen.
And it's all stuff that we've done ourselves already, and we know that it works for that reason. So, getting into my personal testimony, how have I applied love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself to my personal life? Well, in my life, I have had several different points where I thought I was being awakened, where I thought I was being enlightened. And if you've been following us this whole time, listeners, and have watched the Introducing Our Hosts video, you'll know that I wasn't always someone who commemorated God as worthy to be worshipped. I didn't always worship God. There was a time where I didn't worship any God. There was a time where I worshiped many gods. There was a time where I prayed to even spirit guides, not knowing who these beings were that I was praying to. There was a time when I was agnostic/atheist. I didn't really know, but I was leaning towards there not being a God, right? So there's many times in my life when I was being enlightened to certain information that seemed right to me, that seemed authentic. But later on down the road, I come to find out there's a lot of philosophies I was reading into. There's a lot of aspects of spirituality that I was reading into that turned out to be inauthentic, or at least not sound in the evidence behind it to be able to apply to my life and really take seriously as a source guide for my life, right? So when I realized that Jesus Christ is the way, I committed my learning to Jesus. And in that process, I found out that there were some things that I was doing that were neglectful of my neighbor. I found out that there were some things I was sharing on social media. There were some things that I was talking about. There were some things that I weren't talking about that were causing negative results to happen. Yep. Not only in my life, but my family's life and other people's lives. Unintentionally, right? So there were many points in my life, like I said, where I thought I was reaching higher knowledge. I thought I was reaching higher enlightenment. But in authenticity, that was just a selfish sort of enlightenment. It didn't have to do with loving my neighbor. It didn't have to do with loving this personal creator who loves us so much. But it had to do with heightening myself, putting myself up on a pedestal and becoming someone who I wanted to be, not who could be a benefit to other people's lives in an authentic way. So when I accepted Jesus Christ, I realized I need to switch the research I'm doing. I need to switch the way I'm learning to be able to actually make myself into someone that can right now be a benefit to other people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
So one example of this is I got into life coaching. In my commitment to God, I wanted to be able to get the information right now. I don't need to, become spiritually enlightened. I don't need to gain spiritual gifts. I don't need to, see spirits, be able to be a medium, be able to talk to spirits, be able to see people's auras, all that kind of stuff. I was into this kind of stuff, listeners. So I found out I don't need to, become some sort of spiritual guru, some yogi to be able to help people. I simply need to become whole and complete in myself, and then that in kind would give me the capability to help people. So life coaching is one thing I got into. I got my certification as a life coach, and I started learning about, psychology more. I started learning about how people's minds work, what the different perspectives are in life, what the different worldviews are in life, and started to actually dig into the roots of those worldviews that I had been reading into to see if they were true or not, if they were worth sharing with people or not. And that was the point, was I didn't want to share dangerous information with people because I had found out after accepting Jesus that some of the things I was reading into were actually very dangerous to do, very negative in the spiritual side of them. And it's all because of selfishness. Another aspect of this research that I was doing was finding out, when is it appropriate to be able to speak a certain way to a person? When is it appropriate to be able to give them unfiltered information? How open does that filter need to be? Do I let all the information out at once? Do I let little bite-sized pieces? And what I found out, both from you and from the teachings of God's word, was that not everyone can just be brought up to speed in the blink of an eye. And this new research awareness that I had really helped me to dig into and master certain areas of research instead of just pulling little bits and pieces from every place and then spewing them out to the world as if, I knew something about them. I actually became a man who knew what he was talking about when it came to certain topics and issues, and who could authentically help people with their own problems and issues. So that, being dedicated to the Lord in my research and being dedicated to actually being able to help people, love my neighbor as myself in my research, was one of the major shifts that came into my life when I found out the life purpose.
So now, Noah, give us an example, or tell us a little bit more about what enabled you to be able to make the shift from worldly to a new way viewing man of God.
Well, that's an interesting question, Kevin. I don't really know if I can answer this very simply. What helped me to make the shift from worldly to a new way viewing man of God, having a perspective change? Well, there were several aspects, and one of them was I realized the dangers of what I was doing. I realized that on the spiritual side of things, there is a negative side of the spirit world. Mm-hmm. There are negative entities out there.
Absolutely.
And some of which I thought I might have been communicating with unintentionally, unknowingly. And so that was a big wake-up call for me. I was like, whoa, the spirit world isn't all good. This is some dangerous stuff I'm doing. I might want to stop. And on top of that, the perspective changed when I realized that what I was doing already wasn't working. And I just kept trying to push and push and push the same things I'd been doing over and over, sharing the same type of ideas, doing the same things without results. And that helped me change my perspective. I realized I needed to start doing things in a new way. And one great resource to find out how to do that was seeing how people talked in the Bible, how people got results in the Bible, how people prayed in the Bible, and how God acted in their lives to make things happen. And I saw that happening in my life very quickly when I accepted Jesus Christ, very fast. In a almost overwhelming sense, I was being thrown into a whole new perspective change on my whole life. So the whole end goal for my life was now changed from one viewpoint to a whole different viewpoint. And I knew that there was certain things I was not applying to my life enough, which if I were applying them, I may have been in a completely different place. And anyone who knows me closely knows that I was in a very rough place in late 2017 and early 2018. And early 2018 is when I finally made the commitment to Jesus Christ. After that, it seemed that everything sort of just fell into place as far as my perspective. And seeing that happen, seeing the results happen and speak for themselves in what I was doing, committing some time to worshiping God on a daily basis, committing some time to journaling, and committing some time to doing things that didn't really resonate with me so much, but that I knew were right to do, really helped me change my perspective. Because before that, I had thought, whatever resonates with you, that's what you should be doing. But though that does have a place, there are also some things that you need to challenge yourself with. It's not all fun and games, this life. There are some challenges that we need to face in order to grow and learn in the proper direction that allows us to be capable of helping other people. So that was, those were some aspects of what went into my perspective change. And it's not all about research either. It's about, the way I talk to people. It's about the way that I showed love towards people, the time that I was committing to people and to God.
And that's very, very important, because how you love, the way you love, should all be in resonant harmony with how you want to be loved.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are resonating an energy, a feeling, a thought, an emotion that isn't healthy for you and or another person, then you too are going to be equally as lost as the person you're talking to. So the important thing is, in this teaching, is that in order to be able to find the life force, to be able to find the balance, to be able to find the harmony within you, you've got to be able to always be thinking, how is this going to leave another person at the end of the conversation?
That's right.
You always want to leave people better than, not worse than, when they came into your life.
That's right.
So this is now a perfect segue into my story. And listeners, this would be the time to get some popcorn and some sweet treats, because I'm going to take you on a gentle walk into my past and being able to explain to you, to share with you, that at one particular point in time in my life, I wasn't a whole and complete of a person either.
No way.
No way, right? So
Couldn't be true.
yeah. So in my youth, I was born less than well educated. How do I want to say this? I was born with an umbilical cord wrapped around my neck when I was in the process of being born. That cut off the oxygen to my brain and prohibited me from being able to get the needed life energy and life force that I needed at that time. So when I was born, I was already born in critical condition. And so starting from that to being able to survive that situation, then I was told by doctors and all these great people in the medical industry that I would be slow, that I would be having learning disabilities, I would have all these proclaimed issues before they even tested me. And so going through kindergarten, going through grade school, I was told that I was a very special needs person, a special education type person. But then the teachers were starting to see in me that I wasn't a special education or special needs child after all, that the doctors were wrong, but my thinking was wrong.
Right. Yeah.
If it wasn't for a beautiful, angelic, life-changing teacher that stepped into my life and said, listen, what these adults are saying is not correct. Why they're saying it, we still have no idea. But you are displaying a higher than average IQ and intelligence, and you are being able to literally ace tests and ace different problems that other students are struggling with. So they wanted me to be able to find a new way of being able to think about my life. And so I will never forget Pat Rosno all the days of my life. She sat down with me and she literally went over and over and over and over again, day after day, as I'm in class, building me up, lifting me up, telling me that I'm special, that I'm somebody, that I'm worth it, that I'm worthy to be able to not only receive this education, but to be able to then teach, train, motivate, direct, and guide other people, other students, other better off people than what I viewed myself as. It wasn't until I was in middle school that I was able to test out of special education due to Pat Rosno, and I was put back in for the first time ever into the normal school system. It was a complete shock to me to be able to see the amount of people being neglected, being forgotten, being not talked to, not being valued, not being appreciated for who they are in class.
It's a social shock.
A complete social shock. And so because of that, I had unintentionally learned Pat Rosno's ways of talking to people. And that gained new friends, new experiences, and newfound respect for education. And it's because that she took the extra time to be able to change my mindset, to be able to change my thinking, that I was able to excel beyond my own expectation set, and to be able to complete my high school is upon my graduation day. She was the very first teacher, and she didn't have to be there, but she was the very first teacher to congratulate me once I got my diploma after I walked the stage. And it was very emotional because she didn't have to be there. And she just said one thing. She said, if God can be there for you, so can I. And it was a game changer, a complete game changer. I just completely lost myself in happiness to be able to know that someone that remembered me all the way back in kindergarten could be able to then be at my graduation and want to be at my graduation, to be the first teacher to congratulate me other than the principal.
Was she retired by that time?
She was well retired by that time, right?
Very, very cool.
But the whole thing with it is that when I got in touch with her and we had talked, she says that she had brought a few other people too. So after graduation, I was introduced to 6 students that all graduated And I was solely responsible, she said, for their well-being. I didn't know it at the time because being a child, being young, being uneducated, being uninformed, all these different things, you take for granted all these days while you're in grade school and high school. But upon my graduation, these 6 soon to be adults all stood up and congratulated me for me loving them, caring for them, valuing them, respecting them, and trusting them for who they were as people. And I didn't know, I was too stupid in a good way. All I knew was Pat Rosno and her teachings. All I knew was how to be able to be absolutely exceptional in spite of how I felt. And so these other students went to other schools just because of life change. You know, their parents had to move away, whatever, jobs, whatever. But all 6 of them decided to be able to join on my graduation day to be able to thank me for them graduating along with Pat Rosno. And so that was a very emotional experience, right? So now, getting to loving your neighbor as you love yourself.
Can I just ask one question?
Of course you can.
So you had been in contact with these kids, with these people in past years when you were younger?
I had, once I got out of special ed, volunteered to be able to be a tutor for special ed children that were my own age, right? And so because of my volunteering, because I got out of my comfort zone, because I got out of my selfishness of character, I was then able to then assist the teacher to be able to privately teach these children at home, in the privacy of their own home, not at school, but to be able to tutor them, to be able to get them up to speed, and to teach them a new way of being able to receive the information with less of a struggle, with less of a hardship, with less of a emotional attachment to it. But again, I was completely uneducated as far as being able how to teach, train, motivate, direct, and guide people like I am today, right?
Right.
All I know and all I knew at that time was that I knew intimately what that feeling was to be in special ed. I knew what it felt like to be able to not be liked, loved, valued, appreciated, and respected. I knew intimately what it was like to be able to look out the window and see normal children playing and being able to have a great time, and seems like they never had a single struggle in their whole entire life. Just to find out that the window I was looking through was a new window or new view of me in the future, right?
Wow.
So moving forward, now out of high school, now you're talking about take care of your neighbor as you take care of yourself. While growing up, my father, love him dearly, always told me, in order for you to be able to appreciate your neighborhood, you need to be able to know who your neighbors are. And so I would get on my bicycle and I would go door to door to door and introduce myself and tell people who I am and where I lived and that sort of thing. And I ended up sitting and talking with elder people. Now, this is hilarious, by the way, because me being young, and those people were probably in their 40s. They weren't like old people, but I thought, ooh, way back in the day, they were old, right?
Yeah.
But being able to listen to them, listen to their stories, to be able to hear how they were able to become who they were at that time, was life changing. I would come home almost every day being able to tell my mother and my father that I spoke to this person or spoke to that person, and that they told me this and told me that about their life. And all I knew at that time was they were very thankful that I actually took the time to be able to be at their door on my little Huffy bicycle to be able to ask them, "How are you?" And "Hello, my name is," right? And so as I had graduated high school, a lot of the people in my community knew me from when I was young on my little Huffy bicycle, and then I got a moped, and then I got a car, right? But it was nice to be able to see and have these people wave at me and actually thank me for the time well spent, right? All I knew is that my mother and my father, two great example setters, by the way, told me if I wanted to be able to get something in life, I needed to be able to get information and knowledge from other people that already acquired it. So, as a child, as a young lad, I would, cruise up and down these streets and I'd try to find guys with some of the nicest cars, right? And like, "Mister, how'd you get that car?" And talk to them that way, right?
That's hilarious.
But what I found out is that they all had their goals, their dreams, their desires well intact, that they actually had a mission, a vision, a purpose for wanting to be able to do what they needed to do to be able to acquire it. And so I was learning new skills every day by getting out of my comfort zone and just saying hello, right? So, in that process, I raked yards. I mowed yards. I then recycled cans. I then helped be able to shovel snow for the elderly. I then was able to do all these great things by the grace of God because my mother and my father didn't look at me as a fake, phony facade. They created me to be able to be a great person, but I had to be able to know who that was in order to be it. And the only way that I could truly do it is to get out of my comfort zone and get into the hearts and minds and lives of other people to be able to recognize my own greatness within me through them. And it's because of these life lessons, I've now have passed the torch onto my best friend, Noah Hansen, and have allowed him to be able to be that exciting new kid, to be able to help other people in his community, to be able to help grow the community, to be able to help bring awareness and knowledge to other people that he comes across as well. And
Yeah.
we've created a forum, a platform, a website, learning series, YouTube channel, and a podcast to be able to bring everything to light that matters most to you today.
Right. Establishing this has been such a wonderful journey with you, Kevin. And the amount of information that we've gotten out that I feel is important for us to share with people is by far one of the most purposeful things I've ever done. So this whole platform means a lot to me with you. So thank you for lifting me up in that way. Other ways that I've found that being selfless, loving your neighbor as yourself, is beneficial in our lives is the learning experiences I got from being a camp counselor and helping a special needs camp and being actually a caretaker for a paraplegic. Examples like that. And then working in the food bank in Montello was a wonderful experience. Met a lot of great old timers that are at the food bank. I was probably the youngest one there.
And if you haven't been to Montello, it's an incredible, nice.
Oh, it's great. If you love
Little
camping,
town. Oh,
you
yeah.
love fishing, camping, go ahead. So, to touch on one point, when I was going through that problematic time in my life, late 2017 and early 2018, there was such a community support behind me and helping me to get through that, and my family, both financially and emotionally, sending cards. There were cards lined up in the entire wall of the room was just filled with cards. There were so many of them. That was a gigantic part of my perspective change, because I realized, these people are willing to show that they care.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to show them that I care? And that led to actually getting sound in my education, being able to share what I had been wanting to share with people for so many years, which was simple techniques and tools to be able to benefit people's lives and enlighten people, right?
Yeah.
And that's, one thing led to another, and now we've got this podcast. Now we've got this website, which is all about free information sharing that benefits you in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. And the reason why it's free is because we have a beautiful pay-it-forward system to where if you are financially hurting, if you are financially not in a good way, if you are financially struggling somehow, some way, or if you know that someone's struggling and is literally doing the very best that they can, this pay-it-forward system that we have helps with that. And every dollar that's contributed to this system helps to be able to help someone in your community to become a better person. And through these contributions, we use 100% of it and to be able to give to those people that are in need. So all we need from you is that if you like, love, value, appreciate, or respect any of this information, if you resonate with the information, if you find value in it, all we're asking is that at some time, some point in your life, when you feel that the time is right, if you can be able to help us in our contributions to be able to help other people, that would be a blessing. Because we need you. We're here for you because of you.
Amen, Kevin. Thank you for so clearly putting what that Pay It Forward program is. We've got, of course, courses that you can pay for as well. The prices on those courses are not set yet, so depending on your pocketbook, what you can afford, we're willing to, shift and change the prices for those courses. And then we've got other more expensive courses and then cheaper options in place as well. So we want to make things as flexible for you as possible. It's all for your free will choice and decision to be able to support us. And we just want you to know that authentically, the contributions that you make to In a New Way LLC are going to benefit people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about. That's why we started this program. That's why we were inspired to create a podcast in the first place, to be able to just get information out there and benefit people starting immediately.
Yeah, and understand, listeners, that our contributions that we give to other families is 100% private. It's not online. You're not going to be able to see that we gave money to this person or that person, because we believe that privacy is 100% important in today's day, date, and time, right? So we have already instinctively, intuitively have understood your need for privacy. So with that in mind, that's why we don't have hundreds of thousands of positive comments going about other people thanking us. But we have the letters, we have the emails, we have the text messages, we have all of that, and we're so blessed that you appreciate it. But understand is that we value you first, and because of that, our pay it forward system is very private because it's between you and God, right? So because of that, that's why you won't be able to see that. But all of the contributions are a pay it forward system, and we look forward to your contributions today.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Omnipresent Information Connection. We'd like to send you off by inviting you to live with purpose in your life, not only by loving the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, but by loving your neighbor as yourself, just like God says. We will meet you on the next episode.
This has been another life-enhancing, authenticated podcast aired by the OIC and brought to you by the faithful OIC sponsors and contributors. Please tune in every week and subscribe to our podcast. And while you're there, explore our website with all the posts, videos, and podcasts that we have created with you in mind. While you're on the journey through our website, you will see our Patreon page where you can become a faithful contributor yourself with the freedom to be a part of our team today. Thank you.